Oh, sir, just one thing. If we should happen to tread on a mine, what do we do?
Well, normal procedure, Lieutenant, is to jump 200 feet into the air and scatter yourself over a wide area.
Alright, the Lingering Flame Pyromancy in Dark Souls 2. A very unique spell that belongs to and was created by Strayed. But today it's not his. Instead, it is mine. More specifically, a proximity mine. And that's a pretty unique type of attack indeed. And although I have never used this spell before, it is notorious in PvP, because luring another player into a tranquil transient torchlight turned terror temperature trap is quite a flexplosion indeed. In fact, I've been told that it's pretty damn OP, especially because you can stack them. Although trying to do that consistently can be a massive cluster in and of itself, given that the casting time is horrendously slow, and the emphasis on the name is on the flame part apparently, because they only linger for about 20 seconds. Still, the idea of just Oppenheimering your way through Drangleic sounds like it would be a blast. And of course the perfect fireworks for the end of the year. Although if it turns out that this attack is only as powerful as people say under some very precise circumstances, then perhaps this idea will just backfire and blow up in my face instead. And especially given that I just do stuff without ever thinking them through, means that a lot of things can easily backfire. Regardless, it is time for the residents of Drangleic to say a nuclear war farewell to their kingdom. You know, I never really took a good look at the enemies at the very start of the game, but I always just assumed that they were dog-like creatures. But apparently they're more like goblins or mutated evil monkeys or something.
Evil, evil monkey!
Anyway, then I trod my way to the kingdom, but as you know, there is no Pyromancer starting class in this game, and therefore I decided to pick the Sorcerer for high attunement, and given that fire damage skills with intelligence or faith. Yeah, it's either or both at the same time, it's kind of weird. However, something that you definitely do not know, without any doubt, something that you've never seen me do before or in any other video since the release of this game, something that will absolutely blow your freaking mind, is that you can actually, and I really hope that you're ready for this, you can cheese the Dragon Rider by making him fall down into the... hello? What the hell? How many times have I done this before? I guess that the Dragon Rider's AI is just gaining intelligence somehow. Never mind. Alright, calculated and exactly according to plan.
Undead, are we? And one without much time remaining.
Yes, I am a ticking time bomb in fact. So, by purchasing the Cat Ring, we can make our way down the gutter in order to acquire the Dark Pyromancy Flame. After all, the standard flame is locked behind the Flexor Sentry. Also, another trick I bet you have never seen before, but if you punch your way off the edge, you can make your way down without exploding your kneecaps in the process. Son of a bitch! Sorry, but this place can turn anyone into a bit of a gutter mouth. What the hell? They are even laughing at me in the background. Yeah, the AI is definitely gaining sentience. Anyway, after acquiring the Pyro Flame, I made my way further down. First of all for some free life gems, but more importantly, a free fire seat in the Rotten's boss arena. However, when obtaining that one, the game will definitely hold your feet to the fire. Or better said, it's a trial by fire in order to escape with the valuable souls that you randomly acquire from enemies dropping down along the way. But I guess my luck was just as rotten as theirs. Well, actually, this flame skills with hollowing, so it was intentional and fully calculated. something. But of course the Pyro Flame means nothing without the Lingering Flame spell. And that one is not accessible yet. Of course, straight the spell seller will straight up sell you that spell. But it's not like we're going to glitch our way there or something. Nor do I want to skip any other bosses in order to acquire it. But fortunately, or actually extremely unfortunately in hindsight, there is a particular enemy in No Man's Wharf that can drop it for you. So, what would be a theme-appropriate way to acquire it? Well, Melancia's business wasn't exactly booming before we got to her, but we can still get some bang for our buck by acquiring firebombs. There's at least a little flame lingering inside of those, in a matter of speaking. By the way, as you probably already know, the cyanide guarding the chest containing sublime bone dust is programmed to not actually follow you to that chest, meaning that you can always just run past them and safely pick it. Okay, the game is really becoming self-aware at this point. Well, I'm personally very much self-aware, which is why I realized that I'm not necessarily intelligent, because I was playing on console, and that means no drop rate manipulation shenanigans. But at least I could make use of a cloud save. Regardless, the Undead Jailer's drop rate for Lingering Flame is evidently complete ass. Which is funny because rate in Dutch means ass, but it's not funny that it would take me ages to get it. Especially given that you're likely aware of my absolute and utter disdain for farming. Acres and acres of disdain for farming. In fact, I was wondering whether Vexor Life was screwing me over again, and that this particular enemy doesn't even drop Lingering Flame in the first place. And therefore I asked Meaty Jesus to confirm this in DS Map Studio, and it turns out it has a 1% drop rate. God fucking damn it. Well, then I think I will have to shorten firebombs to F-bombs. Fuck, 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 delicious. Fuck, 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 delicious.
We apologize, and if it's okay with you, we would like to present you your long overdue trophy.
Oh my god, I was beyond ready to just throw in the towel. Alright, let's go and tell the lads and lasses on Discord that I finally managed to obtain the what now? The Explorer hat for extra item discovery.
Damn you, hindsight! Bleh.
Hold on, let me call an old friend of mine. Hey Jerry, I just spent hours on end farming for Lingering Flame instead of just playing on PC and modding it directly into the game.
What were you thinking? What was going on in your mind?
Well, you know, because of artistic integrity.
Artistic integrity? Well, where did you come up with that? You're not artistic, and you have no integrity. You know, you really need some help, but a regular psychiatrist couldn't even help you. You need to go to, like, Vienna or something. A team of psychiatrists working round the clock, thinking about you, having conferences, because that's the only way you're going to get better.
Okay, I think I just received a more intense burn than I can possibly inflict on anything in this game. But even though, after dropping so many bombs, I was in desperate need of a courtesy flush, but the water in the Flexel Sentry's boss arena provides a boost to his fire resistance. So therefore I first went to the absolute bombshell known as Lady Rosabeth, aka the Wham Bam Thank You Ma'am. With her torn up dress that does exist in the game code by the way, but is not obtainable by the player. Weep, weep, weep. That's the sound of crying, to be clear. But the real reason we are here is so that I could not only upgrade my flame, but also acquire more fire seeds than the single one I had. In fact, while we're here anyway, we might as well go and collect the fire seed found in the Shaded Woods. And that's easy to do, because now I can simply drop a nuclear warhead slap bang in the middle of the... what the fuck? The casting speed is so unimaginably slow. How the hell are you going to cast a spell like this while enemies are frantically attacking you? This spell is supposed to make me OP, but it feels like the OP-ness is slapping me in the face instead. As the infamous quote goes, some days you just can't get rid of a bomb. And it is very cathartic for me to quote Adam West, because it makes things going south the east of my concerns. Or at least something in that general direction. But perhaps we can find true north. by first luring the enemies out with a firebomb on the barrels, so that we can turn our lingering flame into a tactical warhead instead. And simply have it preemptively lingering. And what the fuck, bro? They should have called it lingering lame instead. I haven't even killed anything with this stupid little pilot light yet, and I already feel completely burned out as well. Okay, we'll just run through the room until we can get to the bonfire. OP spell. Perhaps OP in the sense of, oh, what a bunch of piss. Alright, anyway, now let's upgrade the flame. And, crapalicious, I'm only a few souls short for the next fire seed. Okay, let's quickly go and kill the depressed guy over there. I mean, I don't think he will mind anyway. So, did I just put the fire inside of the wall? I mean, I know that From Software has some peculiar rules regarding the laws of physics in relation to the geometry of their world. But even with that in mind, this is a new one. Or perhaps they put titans in the walls. I mean, they wouldn't be the first Japanese guys to think of that. Okay, but now I can at least... God damn it, now I don't have enough cash to actually kill him. Or in other words, I lack explosions. Yeah, the thing is you only get 4 measly casts, because it's supposedly so overpowered. Well, I sure as hell haven't noticed any of that yet. Okay, but now I am still 52 souls short. You know, I'm already starting to feel more depressed than he did, and my misery has only just started. Okay, let's just quickly get some souls by... I said quickly! Why is my casting so slow that I cannot guarantee that my attack comes out before Christmas? Which, depending on when this video comes out, either accurately conveys an immense span of time, or falls completely flat. But given how long it takes to produce these videos, I'm probably good on that end. Would also help to not farm for hours on end, but... Anyway, where were we? Okay, so now I do have enough souls for the fire seed, but I haven't done the upgrade for the previous one yet, which is also expensive. Okay, in that case we'll just upgrade, I mean, after all, with a +3 pyro flame. It's no doubt time for a weak-ass early game boss like the Flexel Sentry to get completely blown out of the water. And what the actual shit, man? You know, I think that the attitude people have to this so-called amazing spell is completely blown out of proportion. Oh, and that one didn't even hit, because if an enemy moves at even a moderate speed, they can easily be outside of the blast radius in time. I don't know who these people are who are praising this spell to high heaven, but mark my words, you can expect some fallout, that's for sure. Well, not the game, of course, because I've never played that one. Although, I do want to go and reintroduce non-Souls content in 2025, in addition to my regular Souls challenges. But something that should definitely help us out right now is defeating the last giant first for the souls needed to get the other 2 fire seeds from Rosabeth. So, time for the last giant to step on a landmine, and then we can simply... did my flame just go through the freaking floor? I think my jaw is about to drop to about that same elevation as well. Okay, so that doesn't work apparently. But at least his fire defense is not boosted by water, so... well, apparently it is because he has sweaty feet or something. What the hell is this? Even if I had all 4 casts, it still wouldn't be sufficient. After all, it takes an absurd amount of levels into Attunement to get additional casts for this particular spell. Oh, come on, do I seriously have to waste spell restoration items on the freaking last giant of all bosses? And the thing is that I'm not sure how many of those I will be needing later on in the game. So therefore I wanted to hold on to as many as possible for now. And therefore I went to do some ghost busting instead. I'm about to bust a blood vessel as well, by the way. But at least by doing that, I can purchase another fire seed and upgrade to +4. Alright, so now I inflict only 9 damage more? How can it be such a small difference? And how can it be such a small hitbox when it's a giant explosion? Oh, you know what, let's just try again. And this time we're going to make sure that... Damn it, it disappears on the wall again! When that happens, can't it at least still go off or something? I mean, walls don't affect anything else like this. In fact, I wish my head would go through it when I inevitably end up banging it against the wall. Okay, try again. Well, at least this time my aim was quite a bit better, resulting in some roasted chestnuts perfectly for the season. Or more likely way too late for that. But then, when I ran out, I decided to just use an Amber Heart instead. After all, I wasn't counting on the last giant dying from stepping on a bee. But fortunately, that gave me just enough to finally achieve victory. Alright, so now I have enough to purchase Rosabeth's final fire seed. Not enough for the upgrade, but if I use the last giant soul, then I will get a +5 dark pyromancy. Hold on a second. That's right, I'm using the dark pyromancy flame. The one that scales with hollowing. And no, I'm not even referring to the fact that being hollow would have boosted the previous damage sufficiently, because it's only about a 7% increase or so. But now I pretty much have to stick to it, since I've already wasted so many fire seeds on it. Which means that at least for the vast majority of the run, I will have to deal with a reduced health bar. Well, it's a good thing that Cling Ring 2.0 means that it's 75% instead of 50% health. But it certainly sucks given how vulnerable I already am with my slow casting speed. The whole reason I wanted to defeat the Flexal Sentry first was to get access to the standard Pyromancy Flame. Plus, of course, access to Straight for a second copy of Lingering Flame. Well, at least now I am fully hollowed, and my flame is at +5. So now I should do much more damage than only 420. Yeah, I certainly need a bit of that right about now. Which in this case implies that some of my other herbs will have to go to waste. At the very least you can still move while casting, although rather slowly. But that does help a little bit when trying to stay outside of the boss's hitboxes. So that's one small little light bulb moment, given that I apparently can't see the forest for the sentries. Because basically every decision I've made so far has been wrong. Including doing this run at all. But that stops now. After all, with this boss defeated, Carhillion moves to Majulia, and not only does he sell a multitude of spell restoration items, but he also sells a ring that boosts casting speed. And what's even better, if I remember correctly, the +1 version will also be available quite early in the game. Okay, let's check. How soon after this will we be able to obtain that one? It's in the Shaded Woods where I've already been. Meaning I could have got it right after freeing Rosabeth.
Damn you, hindsight! Bleh.
Imagine if there would also be like an armor set or something in this area that boosts casting speed. Now that would really cause a Vexplosion in me. Oh, and then there are also some amber herbs here that I didn't know about. Oh my god. You know, in all these years of playing this game, I have never done a single run that was focused around spells. I just thought I would mention that because I'm not sure if you were able to tell. But you know, at least the casting speed has improved, but it is still inherently simply a lengthy animation. It's never going to be actually quick. But at least I can now easily double the amount of casts, well, relatively easy at least, by making my way through the Lost Bastille in order to unpetrify Straight. Uh-oh. Why did you put these fuckers near such an important NPC? Oh, come on, don't run and please do explode, or else I'm gonna blow up. Of course, Mr. Mage over here thinks I cannot handle his spells. He's a very direct and honest guy, he gives it to you straight. But apparently, FromSoft was not thinking straight, even worse than before in regards to how walls function. Because an exploding barrel can break this wall, but the explosion from Lingering Flame cannot. Also, I've never realized before that you cannot open the door up ahead from the other side, since I always arrive here from the Pursuer side. So therefore I quickly went around to defeat the Pursuer. Fortunately I could finally stack a bunch of proximity mines in close proximity of each other, since the Pursuer does not spawn in close proximity to me. So that was finally some satisfying amount of damage. Even more so with the second one in the Bastille itself. A much easier kill than apparently a single freaking soldier can be. I was expecting the power of a Googleplex explosion, but given the results that I got, I suppose it's just a very complex explosion. Yeah, a better name for this spell would have been the Fickle as Fuck Fire. Unfortunately, no one is as much of a fickle fuck as me, because I actually decided to go and farm the undead jailers in this area for yet another copy of Lingering Flame. So now you're probably asking, what the hell, are you stupid or something? Well, two things about that. First of all, yes. And secondly, since there are 3 of them clustered together, and with the addition of the Explorer Hat this time, it wouldn't take nearly as long as before. And on top of that, the souls I would acquire in the process would allow me to not only purchase the spell restoring items from Carhillion, not to mention the possible drops from the jailers themselves, but also a more appropriate armor set. I mean, we are using fire, so a red armor makes sense, and the Elvis set is straight up fire if you ask me. Very nice looking armor. Now obviously, The hottest set of them all would be from the desert sorceresses. But the thing is that I will pretty much have to be hollow because of the dark pyromancy flame. And yeah, then it doesn't look so hot anymore. In fact, on top of that, this run is about TNT, not TNA. I mean, in a practical sense, it doesn't even matter what I'm wearing anyway, because it's not like there's anything that can possibly give additional cast and stuff like that.
Damn you, hindsight! Bleh.
Now, there is actually another fire seed within the Lost Bastille itself. However, it requires the Bastille key that you get after the Rune Sentinels. And no, you cannot reach that by backtracking from straight cell because of video game logic. So that's not an option. However, instead of fighting the Rune Sentinels, I decided instead to take on the Rotten first. Because first of all, I had an absolutely brilliant idea, as you will see. Well, you will see it completely fall apart in about a minute or two or so, but the other thing is that we will get a shit ton of souls from this fight that we can actually use on valuable levels instead. Because any additional cast would come from raising attunement, which has the additional benefit of raising casting speed. But on top of that, I will also need int and faith for the actual fire damage itself. Not to mention ADP that you basically just need in general. After all, it would also be nice to eventually have some souls to spare on vigor as well, with my reduced health bar. And as you can see, my damage output was still not all that impressive, especially given how long it takes to get a hit in, and even more especially doing that sort of safely with my low casting speed. And to emphasize again, that is simply inherent to the spell itself, because by now with 30 attunement and the clear bluestone ring +1, we are at the soft cap of 120 casting speed. And although it can go much higher than that, any increase from now on would only add up to a matter of only a few frames. But at least because I have so many casts now, the damage quickly adds up, and we can still increase that by leveling int and faith. But of course more than that, we can add some additional fuel to the fire by using a bonfire ascetic in order to respawn the fire seed. After all, the rule is that anything found on a corpse respawns after using a bonfire ascetic. And therefore, what the hell? What the fuck is this? Apparently fire seeds are some sort of a weird exception to that rule. Well, that's a bunch of flaming duty. Well, in that case I have to do my duty by writing an angry email. Okay, dear From Software. How about getting some of my hot seed? Okay, never mind, you know, this is not worth it. They know what they did. Oh well, at least we are able to acquire another seed by defeating the Rune Sentinels, in order to gain access to the Bastille key, as I mentioned before. And the damage against them is definitely more substantial, although that is mainly because of their much lower HP. Also, no idea what the hell was going on with their life bar there, but at least in this fight you can make sure that they are minding their own business by getting all up in their business by setting some cleverly placed mines on the platform. In fact, I almost killed the second one before I was required to drop down. So then, what the hell happened there? Apparently I have 100% Captain America resistance or something. Well, sometimes you're the bug, but sometimes you're the windshield. And with them being unable to use their shields for the win, I was able to deal the winning blow. By the way, as you probably know, there are some hidden rooms inside of this arena. However, one of them is completely empty. So why does this even exist? You might think that some designer on the team simply forgot to put something in it, but I swear that I was not involved in the production of this game. Aw, a lowly knight depressed due to all the misery one experiences in such a tragic and fallen world. A common sight indeed. So the best way to ease his ailing mind is to make sure that he can sit down at a bonfire. Regardless, time for the Skeleton Lords. So let's go for an instant triple kill by throwing 2 flames in the center of the... Of course, what else would I expect? Oh, come on, just allow me to cast. Or else my bones will require a cast instead. Alright, that's better at least. Oh, how about an alluring skull? Now that should lead to some satisfying results. You think skeletons wouldn't burn, but fortunately these guys are bone dry. Unfortunately, I had only 1 alluring skull in my inventory though. So you could say that I forgot to buy them from Selquar, which would technically be correct, but in all fairness it has just become such a habit to save those for Freya. since in most of my challenge runs I don't have the option to hold a torch there. Of course this time I do, but let's face it, how often are the skeleton lords of all encounters any sort of an issue even during challenge runs? Well, apparently this time, because I got willy boned by the bone wheel skeletons. Or perhaps maybe I was just simply acting like a bit of a bonehead. Because fortunately it wasn't so bad the second time around. Because compared to the wheel boners from the first game, these versions are pretty flaccid by comparison. And of course, after that fight, we can pick up yet another fire seed in Harvest Valley. Now, you are going to get ambushed from behind while opening the chest, but by simply, preemptively, placing a landmine behind you, you can safely... What the fuck? Don't tell me that the stupid thing disappeared into the floor again. Freaking flimsy through the flatulence floor-covered fading flame fuckness. Oh boy, the desert sorceresses. The actual ladies of the lingering flame. Blowing their kisses faster than I can blow my load. Well, if you leer at these ladies like that, you are bound to suffer a rubberneck explosion. And on top of that, they don't even die in a single hit. They're too hard to handle to the point that you will have to come back for seconds. Then again, maybe if I actually used that fire seed that I just picked up first... Well, I guess it was a good decision after all to not go and farm them for their outfits. I almost always end up doing that, but this time I won't be that covetous. Yet. But the demon up ahead certainly is, but like usually, he is a big fat nothing burger. A very American one, I would say. Because apparently Americans have a very broad definition of what they regard as edible meat-filled sandwiches. That in other places of the world would not even be deemed suitable for human consumption. But despite of that, I actually, quite randomly, made a rather unhealthy decision myself. Because I decided to go and fight Mipha without burning the windmill first. After all, I have a cultural attachment to windmills. And on top of that, this results in a rather nostalgic experience. Since like most people, this is how I fought Mipha on my very first playthrough. Not with Lingering Flame of course, but with the poison still in the arena, while playing, well, basically Candy Crush, in order to counteract the constant life drain. Even though the actual Candy Crush causes a life drain. Oh, and on a side note, is the name actually pronounced Mipha or Mipha? Because I've heard a lot of people call her Mipha, whereas I always call her Mipha. Well, I suppose Mipha makes more sense since she is clearly modeled after Medusa, the infamous figure from Greek mythology. So there you go. But with the power of fire we can turn her into a molten Gorgonzola. You know, personally, if I would put a snake boss in a medieval game, I would call it Sir Pants, one-eyed snake of the trousers. Of course, Medusa could turn people to stone, but after my previous playthrough in Dark Souls 3, that's the last thing that would frighten me. At this point, the only thing that can is a random ambush from enemies hitting me off screen, but what are the chances of that happening?
Surprise, motherfucker!
Uh-oh, spaghetti-o!
Well, that sucks!
Well, to be fair, something that frightens me even more than that is Iron Keep up ahead. After all, fire damage plus long casting time is not exactly ideal in this situation, and despite the notoriety of Lingering Flame in PvP, it felt completely unfeasible to manage the menace that is Dennis. In other words, we simply had to make a run for the fog wall, and hope for the best given the lack of iframes when going through them. However, I was lucky enough to manage this on my first attempt, but unlucky enough to find the armored one-man oven known as the Smelter Demon there, with its immense fire resistance. If only there was a dark version of the spell, because a hexplosion sounds like the perfect way to ignite the deep dark embrace of everlasting oblivion. Although, in all fairness, it could have been a lot worse for a fire resistant boss if you ask me. Then again, all metal will melt inevitably when experiencing 1,000 suns go supernova. Well, in this case it's about 24 of them, but you know, at least it doesn't sound like some sort of an unsurmountable wall. But apparently the walls of this arena are. So enemies can very easily be outside of the blast radius of my attack, when you think it would count as a hit, but the exact opposite is true about me. Figures. And speaking of obstructions, it can be pretty damn annoying when your own explosion can prevent you from seeing any incoming attack. Not to mention the obvious issue of slow casting time and stamina management. So one thing that did seem to help a bit was to keep somewhat of a distance circling around the edge of the arena. keeping the boss more or less in the center. After all, you're not aiming for direct hits, merely to make sure that he's within the blast zone, fickle as it may be. On top of that, by doing so, you take far less fire damage that way from his radiance. Moreover, by now I had lots of spell restoration items to spare. And who knows, maybe I won't even need a lot more of those anyway, right? I mean, I doubt there will be more surprises like random enemies attacking right after a boss fight. Well, at least in the next area we can obtain the final fire seed that we need in order to upgrade to +10. The apex explosion amongst the most dangerously destructive and dominating detonation devices. And yes, I know it's not the 10th one that we picked up in the world, but I think I neglected to mention that Rosabeth mysteriously died before leaving one final fire seed behind. But what would one expect when a rose as hot as her withers away? For within each seed there is a promise of a flower. And in the end, when you're baking something, often one of your main ingredients will be flour. Unfortunately, after leaving the oven that is the smelter demon behind, we go from out of the frying pan and into the lava. Yes, defeating a boss that is submerged in lava, using pure fire damage, definitely gives me a bit of an ick. But then again, one cannot spell ignite without ick. So I'm sure that this is not going to be any sort of an issue. This is definitely going to be an issue. Especially since we just upgraded our flame to max. But even so, against the old Iron King, the power of the proximity mine is reduced to a doesn't do jack explosion. And therefore I will have to say, I run, King. Lava-ing you is not easy because you're not beautiful. However, it was certainly a thing of beauty that none of the encounters along the way to Freya's Great Soul could even hold a candle to my flame. So burning through this kind of a match took less time to burn through, well, a match of the other kind, I suppose. The point is that it didn't take that long before Nachka became old news. After all, she is a Scorpio Ness and not a Scorpio Switch. Wow, even from my standards that was absolutely terrible. But then again, so is the boss quality of Makers and the Congregation, even for the B-team standards. Although to be fair, in multiple past challenge runs they suddenly became an obstacle. But not this time around. In fact, interesting observation was that this was the first time I fought them where Makers and the Priest lost their entire congregation first. So even if they could still end up victorious at this point after losing their hollows, it would still be a hollow victory indeed. However, when duking it out against the Duke's Deer Armored Spider, the frantic fickleness of the flame hotboxes were back again. Because it felt almost random whenever laying the equivalent of C4 in front of the spider's face counted as a hit, or for whatever reason did not count as a hit. By the way, this is one of the many ways I deal with spiders in real life as well, but those don't tend to be clad in fire immunity granting armor. And I think that this is once again a matter of where the hitbox of an attack can only connect to a single target once. Meaning that if it connects with the armor first, the entire attack is simply negated. If you remember my AoE run in Demon's Souls, you know that God's Wrath has that same exact issue, so pretty sure the same issue applies here as well. Oh, not to mention that one of her heads was apparently already dislodged, but somehow still stuck in place. Making me not even realize that the hitbox on that side was already gone. Wow, that's not merely a dick move, that's a dickhead move. Fortunately, when it comes to the Lost Sinner, the way she moves actually was a benefit. Of course, her stabbing attacks are very dangerous when your own attack is very slow. However, when she jumps over you, only about half of the time she will follow up with a stab attack. But when she doesn't, she will leave herself wide open. Although she can apparently jump sky high before my mines can blow her even skyer high than that. Or she can also simply just jump right into them. I'm definitely more appreciative of the latter. Of course, I would have been especially appreciative if her soul could be transposed into something that would boost the power of Pyromancy. Unfortunately, that is not the case. Damn, if only she gave you something that you could equip in order to make Pyromancy more powerful. Yeah, if only. So, I suppose that the engraved gauntlets will have to do. After all, it turns out that those don't merely boost melee attacks only. Regardless, it's a mere 5% chance for a 50% boost. That means a big increase, but only a little chance of it actually happening. However, you need to make damn sure that you actually meet the stat requirements for it. Because armor in this game can have stat requirements, and if you don't meet those, it provides you with a roll distance and stamina penalty. Yeah, learned that the very, very hard way when doing the all stats at 1 negative soul level run. You know, when you're already struggling with stamina and lack of iframes. But hopefully my soul won't descend that deep into the burning bowels of the earth during this very slow rematch against the old Iron King. Because through the fire and the flames we shall carry on. And it certainly would have helped if it had been a cold winter morning. But I recorded this on a cold dark winter night. So let us hope that this place is not the lowest depths in the Valley of the Damned. Now, fortunately, moveset wise it's not exactly a big deal. But even though his arms linger for a long time on the ground, it can still be shorter than my casting time. And of course you could randomly drop a flame wherever, but that's relying on RNG of course. Or you could actually drop one in front of him in order to hit him right in the ball rock. So in the end it took a lot of casts, appropriately a hell of a lot. But then again, I have fought him with a torch before for 40 minutes. And since I could focus on a single attack at one time, I didn't have too many irons in the fire. Now, technically I could go and acquire the blue dagger in the DLC and the Black Witch domino mask in Belfry's Soul. But doing any more farming at this point would probably result in me getting a burnout, so fuck that. It's about time that we headed off towards the castle for the encounters with the double dragon riders. And although I would normally associate Bimmy and Jimmy with a much cooler song, but this time boom 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 and I'm in an empty room. And of all the runs that I could forget to praise the Sun Jester, it happens to be this one of course. Alright, that's better. Unlike Solaire, I actually managed to find my own sun. Well, at least in my case it's a feature and not a bug. And at least the mannequins are no problem this time, since we can make use of a bottleneck explosion strategy in order to get them in the right position. However, the Ivory King DLC, which is now accessible, features the Fire Clutch ring for a whopping 15% fire damage boost. Unfortunately, it's only available after defeating Ava. But hey, what do you know? I happened to encounter Lemon doing a can you beat Dark Souls 2 with only Great Hammers run or something? Well, in that case, I will happily ignite the fire in the forge. But unfortunately, both of us found ourselves between the hammer and the anvil. But unfortunately, I also quickly found myself between the jaws of Ava. Because slow attacks are not exactly efficient against a fast-moving enemy like this. Now, you do at least get the opportunity to stack several flames on top of each other at the very start of the fight. However, with mixed results, I would say. And after that, you can use only one or possibly two when he's at a distance. But at least that does entail relatively safe damage opportunities. Whereas in close combat, there aren't exactly many of those. Trying to stay underneath him definitely doesn't work, so you kind of have to create them with precise spacing. At the very least, the damage output is surprisingly higher than expected against a DLC boss. And by defeating him, we can gain access to the Fire Clutch ring for 15% additional fire damage. And it's a good thing that we have that, because the Looking Glass Knight already has high fire resistance, but because you fight him in the rain, it is actually his highest resistance. So even with the extra 15%, it still wasn't that impressive. Not to mention that staying at a distance to lure him into the flame once again has mixed results. But it was definitely the best approach because of his shield. And speaking of which, I thought I was being smart by stacking flames in front of it while he was summoning. But as should be clear by now, the trigger proximity is kind of unintuitive, so to speak. So during the second summon, I made sure to stack them far away from the shield, so that the invader would inevitably run into it. And that did prove to be quite effective. Mirror, mirror on the night, knowest it is dust thou shalt bite. Or something along those lines, I don't know. They say that shards of a broken mirror means 7 years of bad luck, but I would still prefer that over a shard in my pants. But at least the fight against Kermit was surprisingly smooth sailing. Surprisingly on such a shallow pond of water. That, just like with the Mirror Knight, raises his fire resistance. And of course a little bit of timing was required, because his foreskin apparently already has a burning sensation that I cannot possibly add anything onto. But the point is that it didn't take that long before Kermit was grilled like a Miss Piggy.
Human, do not produce light.
And Velstad was surprisingly easy to lure into my light, lighter than a bright light. Probably because he spent so much time in the dark.
Come now, don't be shy. Step into the light. I am fire. I am death.
In fact, even when he uses the dark to his advantage, you will get the perfect opportunity to stack several flames together. And soon enough, great enemy Velstad became a great enemy Veld, allowing us access to the King's Ring. Which, in case you didn't know, for some reason has the additional effect of raising fire damage by a single digit worth of AR. So not exactly a ring of fire worth falling into with your finger. Although we obviously need it to gain access to Aldia's Keep. Speaking of which, if you do Novland's questline, you will get the Unleash Magic spell, which also boosts Pyromancy by a whopping 20%. However, since it also lowers your HP by 30%, and it is only active for 60 seconds to begin with, yeah, I wasn't too sure about that. That doesn't sound like a really good trade-off. Especially with my health already reduced. However, in regards to my health bar, I was in fact planning on upgrading the regular Pyro Glove and getting the health that I'm currently missing back. And just to demonstrate that the non-respawning fire seed in the Rotten arena was not some sort of crazy glitch or something, as you can see here on Aldia's Keep, the fire seed on the corpse doesn't respawn, whereas the pickups on the other corpses do. So fire seeds are apparently some sort of a crazy exception, but there's apparently even an exception to that crazy exception. Because despite the fact that the Giant Lord isn't much of a blast from the past, but the fire seed found there does in fact respawn within a static. Probably because it's running on a much older patch or something, I don't know. But the thing is that allowed me to get the final one that I needed to upgrade the regular flame. And on a not necessarily unimportant side note, that also means that I can now become hotter than my own flame by acquiring the boob armor. Yes, I very much hate farming and I was really tired of it because of all the farming I already had to do. But you know, sometimes sacrifices have to be made. And to be clear, as far as I can tell, the difference between the regular and dark pyroflame is actually quite minor. Meaning that our damage isn't exactly lowered by that much. Come to think of it, in the process of acquiring those fire seeds, I also acquired the giant souls, and since I never do Aldia's ending, let's see how feasible it is to acquire the final one from the ancient Let's see how feasible it is to do Vendrick with only 4 giant souls. Well, surprisingly, it was very much feasible. I mean, as long as you stick behind his left leg, despite his massive health bar, the king is anything but a royal pain. So even though I defeated him with 1 less giant soul than required, it still didn't even feel like a crowning achievement. Now, contrary to that, the 2 shithead jesters guarding the porcelain throne more often than not are a royal pain in the ass. But this time, when they were glued to my ass poking away at it like a World War II sticky bomb made out of a sock, I could simply cast in front of me and they would automatically place themselves into the blast radius. Now, controlling who you hit with which attack to get their health bars down evenly was a little less under my control. But regardless, when it comes to the porcelain throne of want, they might be like diarrhea, so I might as well turn it into the explosive variety. Blast it all the way to Kingdom Come. Unfortunately, that implied that the queen wanted to sit her bony ass down on the throne, and thus, with royalty arriving, I made sure to lay out the red carpet bombing for her. And, she's not moving towards me. Hello? I mean, I know that queens in practice basically just stand there while waving, and they don't tend to do much else, but that's probably yet another reason to end the monarchy. Because all my freaking flames are going to waste like this. Aw, damn it, that would have been so much damage. Well, eventually I got some results at least. But yeah, long live the Queen. A little longer than I would have liked, that's for sure at least. Okay, not yet, Alia. I'm not exactly presentable right now. I need to go and get a haircut. Or transplant, rather. Meh, if only Marlin sold wigs or would do your hairdo or something. But he doesn't even have anything whatsoever that is of any use to me. Well, that figures. If you want things to get extra hot, that which is penal in hand will do the job. So, with all that extra firepower, of course, like always, I want to include the fight against the Fume Knight. So to change things up a bit, I decided to include the Ivory King fight for the ultimate penultimate encounter of the run. So at breakneck explosion speed, I ran through the DLC to gather all of my companions. Well, that's not exactly how it went, because since I never do this, it felt like days to gather knights. But eventually, here we are at last. And it's a good thing that they are here, because fuck me, there's just an explosion of enemies of the overwhelming onslaught variety here. So, although I initially felt like King Arthur leading his Knights of Justice into battle, but in all fairness I quickly became Guinevere'ful because there was a Camelot going on here. But, not to worry, after all, I'm of a whole different caliber than even the King of Knights himself. At least, I guess I used to be, by now it was apparently an Excalibur. Because the thing is that the last time I actually fully did the Ivory King fight was before I even had my channel. So that was about 7 years ago. And therefore I had absolutely no clue what I was up against. Well, apparently I was up against some pre-Elden Ring delayed attacks, because there was a lot of roll catching going on. Yeah, as epic as this fight looks, other than presentation, I don't think I missed out on never including it, because fuck me is it tedious to constantly having to do the entire section with the Lois Knights over and over again, just to get another chance to sink my teeth into the Ivory King. So you know what, I think I need some motivation that's explosive enough to count as a face melter. Well, speaking of melting faces, melting Aldia's giant face in the final face-off that we had to face in this run contained a bit of an unexpected problem. Because whenever Aldia teleports, he only has a brief window of vulnerability. Because when he catches on fire, my fire doesn't exactly add that much to it. But even with all this attunement, my casting speed just isn't quick enough. Meaning I had to either slowly whittle down his health, or weave myself in between his branches. In general, it was a matter of spacing, or I guess randomly putting some flames out, hoping that he would happen to teleport into them. I guess it's only appropriate that my best opportunity was when he was creating a giant lingering flame of his own. Which fortunately for me has an even longer casting time than my own one has. So in the end, what is my conclusion about this spell? Well, let's just say it's not exactly a pragmatic one. You definitely can get some nice damage out of it, but in the vast majority of cases, it feels like a giant dud instead. Or at the very least the way I approached it, I feel kinda bummed out about it. So I suppose that even when taking on the world of Dark Souls 2 with a bang, in the end, it still inevitably ends with a whimper.